Good afternoon. I'm State Senator Fred Strayhorn from the 5th Senate District, and I am here this afternoon to talk about Central State University and understanding that we just heard about K-12 education and closing the achievement gap. We all understand that education is about a continuum. On the onset, I would say that I have tremendous concerns about a number of the changes that Senate Republicans have made to House Bill 1, our operating budget, with regard to the impact that it has on the minority community. Senate Republicans have made drastic cuts to the Commission on Minority Health, closing achievement gap, Commission on Hispanic and Latino Affairs, Central State University, just to name several, and removed language that dealt with minority contracting and the Croson study, which is an absolutely necessary step in the factually determining of whether the state procurement process is flawed in its utilization of minority and women vendors. Principally this afternoon, as I stated, I'd like to talk about the 12% cut to Central State University, which is, as you know, Ohio's only state-supported historically black university. So some of you might say, well, what's so special about Central State University? Why shouldn't they receive a cut? And I think it's important for us to all remember the history that surrounds Central State University and its dealings with the state of Ohio, and to putting this into context. Central State has struggled over the years, largely because of the state of Ohio has not fulfilled its legal obligation pursuant to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which among other things stipulated that the states that had HBCUs would develop a plan on how they intended to incorporate those universities into their overall higher education system and implement unique programming at those universities that would attract students of diverse backgrounds. There were 19 states that were supposed to develop these plans. By the 1980s, there was only one state that had not done that, and that was the state of Ohio. The Strickland administration is the first Ohio gubernatorial administration to develop such a plan, which we refer to as speed to scale, and back that plan with continued support. Speed to scale is designed to increase the enrollment at the university to 6,000 students by the year 2017, alleviating the necessity for what we refer to as the supplemental subsidy. In the past, the state of Ohio has directly negatively affected the growth at Central State University. One way that it has done this is through not putting the capital improvement dollars behind the university, which is how you build buildings that warehouse programming that attracts more students. The other encroachments have actually been more overt, and many of you remember in the late 1990s when there were efforts to close the university, partly by state officials who overstated the financial problem at the university, which created hardships for the university and drove down enrollment for several years. Now that we finally are moving in the right direction, largely due to the correct actions of the Strickland administration, Senate Republicans through this budget want to take a giant step backwards in the treatment of this institution that has been wronged by the state of Ohio time and time again. The university deserves to be dealt with in a positive light, even though these are difficult times, because we've dealt with that university so harshly when times were good. So for me, that is what makes Central State University special at this particular time. Speed to scale is a mechanism to redress, and I want to emphasize the word redress, previous injustices. It only works if the state supports Central State in a committed, substantial, and consistent fashion. As a practical matter, as Senator Miller pointed out on the floor of the House during the budget debate, Central State graduates more African American students than all the other state-supported universities and colleges in the state of Ohio combined. It is a wrong-headed decision. It makes no sense to levy a 12% cut on an institution of this size that cannot, it is incapable of absorbing that kind of cut in the same fashion that its larger higher institution counterparts like Ohio State or Ohio University can, and those universities have not sustained the same type of institutional prolonged discrimination that the university has. It is
Thank you, Senator. Currently, our state's representation of minority inclusion through its own scorecard is deplorable, to say the best. Our Republican colleagues in the State House have further exacerbated the problem by stripping all of the items included in the House version of the budget regarding MBE support and development. This sends a loud message that they have no care or concern for establishing fair, accessible business opportunities for minorities in the state of Ohio. Ultimately, they have no interest in complying with the existing statutes that we have on the books currently here in the state, or any of the HUD directives that we're to comply with when we accept federal dollars. Senator Strayhorn referred to the Croson study. The first time the Croson study was done, it demonstrated that within the last 100 years, there had been less than 1/100% of all contracts let to minorities in this state. Not even worth measuring. In March, we established the Minority Stimulus Task Force. We've been working with all the colleagues of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, all relevant state departments, the governor's office, community action organizations, the NAACP, the Urban League, many of our partners standing here with us today, workforce development organizations like COIC, job leaders, and Impact here in the Columbus area, Columbus State University, labor organizations, community organizations, and most importantly, our minority business partners. The objective of this task force has been to monitor, to streamline access in terms of MBEdge registration, build capacity, and to offer recommendations to the administration on how to be a better service to minority business, if that's sincerely the intent of the state. Most specifically, as we navigate through the stimulus process. There is a tremendous amount of money coming through in a very short window of time. We had no reason to believe that there would be any better addressing of these funds than there had been in the last 16 years. Through participation and conversation with our governor, we've been assured that we have not only been heard, but that he will support the reinstatement of our requests in the budget. For that we are proud, and we will hold him to his word. Our most recent scorecard revealed that of the potential $2.2 billion in expenditures that could have been represented through the statutory inclusion of minority contracting, which would be the 15%, was demonstrated in reality through a $68 million expenditure, which is the equivalent of 3% minority inclusion. As we have such a failing representation of any sincere attempt toward inclusion, one of our strongest requests is that we have a third-party external entity not only monitor, but advise the state on opportunities to increase minority participation. We have submitted a model to the governor that's based on a third-party operation that's going on in the state of Maryland right now. We expect the penalties that exist within statute and through executive order to be enforced. Bad actors should no longer be able to do business in the state of Ohio. Further, as transportation is the largest expenditure of stimulus, it is mandatory that the Deputy Director of EEO position within ODOT that was in the House version of the budget be restored. As we enter conference committee for this budget, it is our intention to reinstate the MBE amendments that were stripped from the bill and deliver to the citizens a reporting of our fiscal intention that is representative and inclusive of all of its citizens and business. This is the most important work that we will do here during this General Assembly, and we must do it on behalf of all of our citizens, including our minority citizens.